Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And one of my subscribers has awared me and linked me a video by none other than Michael Hearn, aka Michael Tren, aka Mr. Duck Eggs, running an NFL player through a shoulder workout. And he called it a football shoulder workout. I'm going to disagree with that. So let me go ahead and put on my +5 hat of Speechcraft, aka my +5 hat of autism, as some of you like to call it. And let's talk about this. Now, I'm going to give credit where credit is due. As far as bodybuilders go, Mike is pretty strong. Actually trains better than most bodybuilders, right? Because most bodybuilders, and there are exceptions. So when I say most, again, let's come over to the point. When I say most, I don't mean all. I'm talking about on average. The average professional bodybuilder is more or less what Bill Starr described, right? Bill Starr originally wrote one of the best programs back in the day, like in the 80s, for football. A lot of NFL players ran his stuff. So Bill Starr had a book that he wrote called Only the Strongest Will Survive in Football. And actually, the guy was a pretty good coach as far as strength and conditioning goes. And he actually said that the average professional bodybuilder isn't qualified to coach a high school football team in the weight room. And he was right, because they generally are bad. And I mean, that's something that's come up again recently. I've seen Dr. Mike and some of these other people point out that bodybuilders are the only people who are behind the times. They don't keep up with the current strength and conditioning. They don't keep up with the research. Most serious bodybuilders, even at the top levels, aren't even aware of how to periodize programming. Like, they're completely unaware of it. They don't even understand deloading. They don't understand dual factor recovery models. Any of this stuff, because they're genetic freaks who just up the dose on the drugs. I mean, if you're having problems with your training and gains and stalls, throw another $1,000 worth of drugs at it every month, right? Problem solved. That's the bodybuilder solution. So Mike does train better than the average bodybuilder. And so, I mean, I will give him that. And the guy is strong. I mean, relative compared to a lot of bodybuilders are weak for their size due to the drug abuse, which is one of the reasons I always say, look, it's laughable that anyone thinks Mike is natural. When he pulls that, that's nonsense. Only naive kids even believe that. But realistically speaking, the guy has put in a hell of a lot of heavy work under heavy iron and probably doesn't abuse as much as people think he does. I've said that in the past. People were shocked when I said that. I don't think Mike abuses large amounts of drugs. I don't. I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell he's natural. Not a snowball's chance in hell. And anyone who believes that is just flat moronic. You're stupid if you think that. Like, you're too ignorant to have an opinion. But I also don't think that he uses as much as most guys his size would, because he does train heavy and he has a strength base. And that's one of the things that we know based upon on some of the research that's been done. The higher your drug doses go, the more muscle you gain relative to your strength. So people who are really, really strong relative to their size are probably using less. And we know that people who use very low doses, they don't get disproportionately big versus their strength. They tend to be brutally strong for their size, no matter what size they're at. So again, whole different topic there. So I don't think Mike actually uses as much as people accuse him of using. I don't think that's the case at all. And he wouldn't be as healthy as he is at his age if he had been either. That's also my opinion. So you've got all that going, and here's the thing. There was a little bit of good in the workout, but a lot of it was really bad. And I mean, this is again an example of bodybuilders not knowing how to train athletes. They really don't. I mean, having these guys on machines is a problem. But I'll cover what he did good first. Early on in the workout, and I would have put it at the end, he had the guys doing face pulls. Face pulls. I'm a big fan of face pulls. I'm a very big fan of face pulls. I even programmed face pulls into my newest novice program. They're in there for novice lifters. Even though it's a small finesse movement, it's in there. And he had them actually squeeze at the top. Now, I do mine different, so I'm not going to pull it the way he did. I do it overhand grip. He had them squeeze at the top, all that stuff. And as a prehab exercise, face pulls are phenomenal. For overall shoulder development, face pulls are phenomenal. Right? It's a phenomenal exercise. I think they're great. There you guys go. I just endorsed an exercise that's not a big barbell movement and said that it's a phenomenal exercise. How rare is that? We don't need to be dogmatic here. I think face pulls bring a lot to the table. And he focused on that. And I'm going to agree with that. I think that's good. I think any shoulder programming needs to include face pulls. Now, I would never have anyone do a shoulder day, right? Like, what do I recommend with the shoulders? But I do a lot of heavy overhead work, right? Most people out there a lot of people have actually said that my overhead press, my strict standing press is, compared to my other lifts, my best lift. A lot of people feel that way. I did specialize in it for about a year. So I'm big on overhead pressing. I'm big on heavy shoulder training. But, I train shoulders twice a week as part of my upper body days, right? But then I do face pulls every day. I do 20 sets of face pulls a week. Phenomenal exercise. So I'm going to give him credit for putting it in there because that needs to be done. You give credit where credit is due. But then we look at the rest of it. Everything was a bunch of seated machine shoulder exercises. And he started with little small movements. All right, that's fine. If you need to warm someone's shoulders up with some bands, okay, that's fine. I get that. Why are you having them fatigue themselves and then do the overhead pressing? And then he puts them on a machine, a seated machine. Again, what does even Athlete X says? If you want to be an athlete, you need to do your shoulder work standing, right? Even Athlete X says that. Jeff Cavalier says that. Do your shoulder work standing if you want to be an athlete. Where was the standing strict press? That's your base. Now, I understand a more advanced lifter, you might want to use something besides the strict barbell press. I get that, because that's a base builder. A guy with an NFL contract is obviously at this point not a novice lifter anymore, right? This is an advanced athlete. Actually, NFL will call him what he is. He's an elite athlete. Where's the push presses then? What do most strength and conditioning coaches feel is your premier shoulder exercise for field athletes? The push press. The research on the push press shows that because of the thigh recruitment, the quad recruitment, it has the highest force production of just about any lower body exercise, but it's also a tremendous shoulder builder that trains you for contact sports. In other words, football players who do it learn to use their quads and their hips and their glutes to help them push someone. Boxers and MMA fighters learn to use hip and leg drive when they punch with it. It makes you stronger and more explosive when you hit somebody. In any sort of pushing movement, punching movement, it carries over tremendously well. It is one of the most premier shoulder exercises for field athletes and any contact sport athlete because it carries over to both. It actually helps sprinters. So if you're going to come in and you're going to have a shoulder workout for someone who is both a field athlete and in a contact sport and there's no push presses, where's the push presses? Another big one, you guys know it. People who follow me know what I'm going to say next. Let's see, shoulder development and rate of force production. Football's an explosive sport. You don't want to train slow for it. You don't train slow for any explosive sport. That's real stupid. Shoulders and force development. What are we going to talk about next? Where's the power snatches? Where's the power snatches? Where's all the standing work? I mean, face pulls are great. I love that face pulls are in there. But, I mean, what would be for someone who already has built a little bit of a base? They're no longer a novice. This guy's obviously not a novice lifter anymore. Football player, contact sport. So if we need full shoulder development, we need explosiveness, rate of force production, maximum strength, and then we need stability and prehab. Should be push press, power snatches, face pulls. That's what I would have built the shoulder workout around. There's your programming. That's what you need. What are all these little slow rinky-dink movements with cables and machines? Every single thing that he had him do was either on a machine or cables, right? I wouldn't have done any of those. Even the face pulls, I prefer bands. There's good data on that. Bands are actually in certain ways superior to cables for face pulls. I mean, we're getting tit for tat at that point. I mean, it's a very minuscule difference. But, if you're going to train elite athletes, if you're going to train people who are going to have to make their livelihood off their performance, their injury prevention, everything else, why wouldn't you use the best exercises? It doesn't make any sense. He put him on a shoulder workout for guys who use heavy amounts of drugs who are bodybuilders. This was not useful for a serious athlete. And I get it. I appreciate the fact that he did talk about full range of motion. I appreciate the fact that he talked about the silly pumping and lack of mobility that you see in most pro bodybuilders is bullshit. I can respect that fact because he's right. But he still did all the other silly shit that a bodybuilder would have done. This is a field athlete. This is a contact sport athlete. Where's the push presses? Where's the power snatches? You know, the face pulls are there. I'll give him that. Where are the big explosive movements? Why is all this shit being done seated? In what world does a football player ever utilize their shoulders while seated? Where's the specificity of training? And let's not even discuss the fact of a strength base generally needs to be done standing. Yeah, you can't bench press standing. I get that. That's fine. Most of your training work for a field athlete needs to be standing exercises, the vast majority of it, because that is how they compete. And that's how most of us build a strength base. You don't get strong by sitting around trying to isolate every muscle. So all in all, I wasn't impressed with the workout. It was total bullshit, total bodybuilding, fluff and pump garbage. He did make some good points, and I will give credit where credit is due. The face pulls, fantastic. Talking about mobility, full range of motion, fantastic. But this was still a garbage routine for an actual serious athlete who's not a drug-using bodybuilder. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.